This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, get us an each.
Happy Sunday. We made it. We made it to Sunday, folks. This is the Big Football Show coming to you live from the Sports Corner here up in Connecticut, where it's been raining all the time. It's gloomy. It's terrible, but I stay up. I keep myself up just for this show, just for our guests, just for our viewers. How you doing this morning? Welcome to the Big Football Show. Sonia and Jack, welcome in to our show today.
Good morning.
Good morning. So, daylight savings time. Any one of you find it rough to get up this morning? I had to throw water on my face this morning. Yeah, I know. James still isn't in yet. I mean, Jack wants me to find you people that are late, that aren't making it in on time, and maybe we have to find James for the first time this year, Jack.
There should be fines. You come in late, you have to be at a team meeting, on game day at a specific time. You come in late, there's got to be a fine, Mac.
All right. Okay. Well, we'll work that out with James. We're paying him big bucks to be a co-host now on the Big Football Show, so we'll work that all out. A little follow-up. Remember the story in the playoffs where the Chiefs played Miami in freezing cold weather? Some fans got frostbite. Well, it seems that some of these fans have to get amputations. So, this is why I got kicked out of a group, because I said how bad it was for people to be out there. And of course, you could blame the fans, but the NFL has to hold some responsibility. Peacock has to hold responsibility since they refused to reschedule the game. And now I expect there might be some lawsuits out there because, lawyers, if you're in a car crash or something, they're right there. The ambulance chasers have got to be around. So I would expect some lawsuits to come up. Good morning, Keith, and good morning, Rick. So, what do you guys think? I mean, is it the fans' fault? Is it the NFL's fault? Is it Peacock's fault?
I think it's partly, I don't want to say it's Mac's fault. Obviously, you hate seeing what happened, Mac, obviously.
Yeah.
But we've gotten into a lot of debates, you and I, about this. They have no business playing football in that weather. And you and Jeff Cobb ridiculed me for that. They have no business playing in virtually 0-degree weather. Fans shouldn't have to sit through that. I know they have an option of not going to the game. Right. You have to understand the hardcore fan is addicted. They're not going to skip the game. They feel they have to be there to support their team. Football should not be played in that type of way.
That is totally wrong, Jack, and Keith's going to tell you why right now.
We're so soft as a country. It's unbelievable to me. By the way, how many tens of thousands of people? What's that place hold? 70,000 people? I don't know. 60,000 people. So one guy got frostbite and lost a finger or whatever he lost. I'm not going to lose a lot of sleep over this. Dress better. The game is meant to be played outdoors. Was played outdoors for 100 years. And I don't want to watch games in antiseptic domes. It's crazy. Or postpone.
It's more than one person, Keith, who suffered frostbite.
Give me the percentage then, Jack. It's still like 1% of the people that were there. And it's just, again, we're soft as a country here. It's crazy.
I agree with that, Keith. And Sonia, I don't know if you back up Jack or not. I think you're a little bit even more manly than Jack sometimes. But anyway, listen, this is the way it is. And but that doesn't mean that these lawyers are going to come for emotional distress, mental distress. I mean, you're walking around with no toes or no fingers. I don't know. Maybe they should have the Green Bay Packer fans down and teach people how to dress during cold weather. What do you think?
Right.
Well, so there is, unfortunately, and good morning, everyone. Basically, like you said, I could see both sides from a subjective standpoint. However, there is something called the assumption of risk. And so when you make these choices to attend these events, despite whatever situation is going on, you have the assumption to make sure you protect your best interest. And you best believe the NFL is going to be well legally protected if they should face some type of lawsuit with these regards, because at the end of the day, no one forced these fans to go. These players are not amputees or subjected, in such a way that they had to get medical treatment because they knew how to properly dress, like Keith spoke about. And it's just as if you were attending anything else. If you check the weather forecast, you dress for the weather forecast, and you can protect yourself just like the players were. And even though we sympathize with them for, the medical situations they have, the NFL is going to be well protected on this one.
Yeah, I guarantee it says on all the tickets, by the way, about the assumption of risk. Every ticket you buy to a sporting event, you're assuming risk, and they're taking all liability off the table. And check the
exactly.
Listen, stated like a true lawyer and a co-attorney there, but I want to tell you a couple things. One, you can sign whatever. You can sign a waiver if you want. They do it midget football or youth football. You could do that, but you're still liable to get sued. Sonja, you probably know this. You're still liable, and you don't want to go to court. You look like a mean person, and they don't want this out in the public that the NFL refuses to help these families out, right? I mean, you may affect their work, you might affect how they react with their families. I mean, the NFL doesn't want, or Peacock doesn't want to look like the bad guy here.
So they can bring a suit. You can, you guys could sue me. Anyone can file a suit. It does not matter. It's, a motion for summary judgment is going to be what's the end result, which the judge would decide, which is basically tossing the case out, ruling in the defense of the NFL. The NFL may take the stance, not necessarily in a forced legal, like because they were ordered to do so. They may, have a heart and decide, we'll send this family a few thousands or whatever as far as money, but that is something that they may or may not do. They cannot be legally forced to do so. Like Keith said, I mean, on our tickets, I'm a PSL owner. It literally has in the fine print when you buy the tickets, if the bleachers, collapse during the game, it's going to be the same situation. You assume that risk, just as if you assume any risk going anywhere else.
And not that I disagree with you, but I think it will be a PR disaster.
It would be.
NFL or Peacock doesn't fork over some money for the medical bills or whatever they're suing for.
It's a peanut. So, and by the way, let me know the alcohol content of those people that had their.
Assumptions, Keith. That was.
Were
terrible.
they shirtless?
Guess what? I'm being very serious, because what do what it does is it lowers your body temperature. Alcohol, it doesn't warm you up; it makes you colder.
I agree.
And you're cognizant. You're not realizing in a timely manner that you're going into hypothermia if you're under the influence.
Yeah.
I agree. But that won't change me from drinking brandy at the cold games. Anyway.
Me either. I'm just very warm while I'm doing it, by the way.
Yes, you do. Okay, so Keith, he's our college football expert. He's in every Friday normally with me. We had him on a debate show. And on Sunday, of course, he's here giving us college news. So I want to go over some of this with you. The 2026 playoff format is being worked on right now, Keith. They didn't want to move on from 4 teams. Now they're going to let 20 teams in, but it's not that many yet. It's 14 teams. Of course, the bigger schools, the SEC and the Big Ten, are going to get like 8 out of the 14 spots. And the smaller schools do not like it at all. But, that's where the best teams are. Those are the tougher conferences. They're going to have to deal with that. And, of course, the money issue of the distribution of money and all that has to be worked out yet. Keith, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, the number of teams that you get in directly affect the amount of money you get. On the proposed, which has been shot down, by the way, right now, this proposal is not going through as we stand here today.
Right.
It would be 3 teams, if I remember right, 3 teams for the Big Ten, 3 teams for the SEC, 2 for the ACC, 2 for the Big 12, and then you'd have 3 more. I'm sorry, 1 for the highest group of 5. And then you'd have 3 more at-large parts. Guess who's never voting for this, by the way? Notre Dame. Notre Dame's never voting for this. They've got 7 shots now. That gives them 3. Notre Dame never votes. You got a 1 no vote all the time there. And if you want to open this up, make it a true championship like the NCAA tournament does, and all the conference champions get in. Make it, I've said this forever, at the risk of speaking of getting sued. I've been threatened to be sued about talking about this forever. Some guy lives in his mother's basement.
Yes.
Go to 16 teams, take all 12 or 10. There's only 10 conference champions. Take them all. You still got 6 at-large teams to get the other best teams in. Why do I need to see the 3rd best team in the Big Ten or the SEC? Now, they may be very good teams, and they probably likely will be. But why should they go in over a team that actually earned their way in by winning a conference championship? This is all a money grab. 40% of the money in this proposal would go to the Big Ten, and another 40%, I think, would go to the SEC.
Well, the reason is, Keith, the 3rd best team in the Big Ten is probably better than the number 1 team in, say, the Pac-12. That's probably why.
I'm not saying that's right. I say that's probably accurate, right? But go win your conference. You wanted these super conferences. You know, Mac, again, I hate to say you're right, but you're right. They're going away. They're going their own way in 5 years, or within 5 years. The SEC and the Big Ten are going away. They're going to be a professional league, basically, competing on Saturdays against the NFL. That's what it's going to be, and then there'll be the rest of the NCAA. Just go there now. Go there now. Stop messing with everything and screwing up everything to do with wonderful Saturday afternoon college football, and go away now. That's what I would say.
All right, so there you go. Good morning to Jason Gonzalez. Glad you joined us. They're giving scholarships out. If I could only throw a beanbag really good, I could get half my tuition paid now, as the cornhole has become a new way to get a college scholarship. I think this is Winthrop College in. I'm trying to get this. Let me get the state here. Well, anyway, Gavin Hammond and James Remick, 2 pieces of the first 2 guys to be getting a scholarship in the tough game of cornhole. Me and Jack could get a scholarship on this. I mean, we could really light it up in cornhole. I think a couple weeks practice. So, Keith, what are your thoughts on this? Are they just giving scholarships for anything right now to get people in?
I mean, I don't know whether it's and again, I suppose if they didn't and they refused, I don't know how this came about. Whether these teams petitioned for a cornhole. I didn't even know colleges had cornhole teams. Number 1. Number 2, I don't know who said we need to have scholarships for this, because I'm sure this isn't a great revenue driving sport, and it's going to be supported by Title IX probably. I mean, who else is going to support it? Nobody's going to go there and pay tickets to watch it, I don't think, except their parents. And I thought I'd seen everything up here. You know, I laughed a little bit when I saw you send me that last night, and I'm like, this can't be accurate. And then I thought, I went and looked for it. It was, obviously. I thought you might be busting me. But up here, upstate New York at Albany State a few years ago, they have a video game.
Yes.
And they give scholarships for that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nuts. I mean, it's absolutely crazy.
Listen, I don't know why we're making fun of this, because Pags was on Northeast Streaming Sports Live with the Cornhole Championships. I don't know if he participated in it or not, but and I don't know how big the views were. I think we got some views on this, but I mean, you know, there's people out there right now at home practicing. Jack, I don't know. Are you practicing cornhole right now, Jack? That's what I want to know.
Mac, I refuse to be drawn into this discussion about cornhole championships and Keith's big news talking about Albany State scholarships. I mean, I'm waiting for the more serious sports. before I
Okay,
start
all right.
taking the discussion.
Well,
Jack,
pickleball will be up soon. Don't worry about
yes,
it.
they will. And I heard Sonia's very good at pickleball. That's one way she works out every day. So you may be able to play John McEnroe. Who knows? John McEnroe is,
To be clear, I have the same opinion as Jack, but because of the note I got last night from Mac, I was forced to talk about this topic.
Yes, you were, and you were a good soldier too, Keith. I appreciate that.
Keith just wants to avoid talking about the Yankees. I know why he's on this topic.
Well, I don't blame him right now because they're not even playing regular season yet, so it's really no discussion there. So
next we'll have a championship for flying paper airplanes, I guess.
Well, that's only the military schools that will participate in that, and the Air Force is not going to be allowed to get into that since they're
Oh, they'll be banned.
Yes, they will. Anyway, the college is following the pros. They are going to have I guess they already had one this year or last year, a mid-season tournament. I guess if the pros can do it, so can college, and they're actually giving NIL money to the players, the coaches. I guess the collectible industry and the NIL industry is sweetening the pot, giving them millions of dollars to play this, and $1 million to the winner, Keith.
Well, that part is new. The in-season tournaments have been played for a while. I mean, they play holiday tournaments
Right.
In certain conferences or certain regions. Preseason, or I should say early season tournaments in Alaska and Hawaii. These have gone on forever. The really new part of this is the prize money, if you will, which again, let's forget all pretense of we have amateurs playing sports here today. Here's more money for the schools to go out and recruit more kids, because that's what the money's going to be used for. And this is another byproduct of the NIL mess. So
yes. So
and who's going to care when you post that banner? We won that mid-season tournament. Nobody's going to care. Just like the Lakers, nobody's going to care.
Well, I mean, LeBron cares, and Anthony Davis cares, and I guess the coach cares.
Yeah.
And if you look at them now, Keith, I mean, they're catching fire, so maybe that spurred them on. I mean, they look up to the Raptors and they get all emotional, and Anyway, so NIL dipping its hand into college basketball as it has been just up front, and everybody can see it now. Your favorite quarterback, the quarterback Jack talked you into liking, Mac Jones.
Never give you Jack.
There is interest in signing this guy based off his first year. He had a good first year, but what I seen, Keith, is pretty much a guy that pouts a lot, a guy that gets upset a lot when he doesn't play well or doesn't go his way. Do you think he would be a starting quarterback on any team in the next couple of years?
Next year, no. Could he be rehabilitated? I do think, and I've said that several times, I do think he could be rehabilitated by the right team and the right coaching. He does need to, take responsibility for his own attitude sometimes and his own actions. And to me, it's all born out of frustration. There was a lot of things going on there that, he couldn't control, and he didn't handle it well. If he was winning and showed those same emotions, it'd be fine. Tom Brady acted like that through most of his career. But he was winning Super Bowls. That's the difference.
Yeah,
right?
There's a big difference there. And
It's revealing what you just said, Keith. Is it possible that Bill Belichick ruined them the second year by, they bring in Matt Patricia, Joe Judge, and there was internal fighting. It's obvious now. Had they just left him alone, had he had the right coach, could he have built on that rookie year?
As much as I have defended Bill Belichick in other situations, I've been on record very loudly as saying that Bill Belichick is solely responsible for ruining Mac Jones. Yes. With the second year debacle with Matt Patricia and Joe Judge, as you mentioned, using him basically as a pawn in his own little internal war with the Crafts. He wanted to trade him. Kraft said no. Then he decided last year to the detriment of the team and to Mac Jones and to everybody, when Mac Jones obviously was struggling and not needed to sit down, he didn't sit him down right away just to say, here you go, Bob, you want him to play? He's playing. So Bill Belichick, yes, is to me, solely responsible. Mac Jones has to take some responsibility, as I said, but they did him no favors, and there's no excuse for it.
Well, as you remember, not to be outdone, Trey Lance did have a lot of interest too from San Francisco. He is now the third string quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. I understand what you're saying about Bill Belichick and Mac Jones being frustrated and everything. But listen, when it comes down to it, you got to be responsible for your own stuff, and they get a lot of credit, they get a lot of blame, and that's the life of a quarterback.
Let me just add in with Trey Lance. Jerry Jones was on the news. He's pumping Trey Lance up. He wants him to be Dak Prescott's primary backup. He's going to be competing, for the job against Rush. But I think Jerry Jones put his stamp on Trey Lance. It's Trey Lance's job to lose as far as being the backup next year for the Cowboys.
Well, I'll tell you, I hope he gets forced into action. I really do, especially playing against the Giants.
Right.
We'll make that a win. So the Knicks move into fourth place. Brunson back, leading scorer for the game, and they played a bunch of players that are the replacement players. They're the players. Most of those players will be on the bench when the new when the regulars come back in. You had this guy's name drives me nuts. Precious Achua, I think is his name, and Josh Hart, Dante DiVenzo. They all had good games, Keith, and they seem to be finding the chemistry on the bench. And they even added Milton. Yes, Shake Milton. Great name, Shake Milton. They added. Maybe that's the last piece on the bench they needed.
Well, hopefully he's the last piece of bench they need.
Shake Milton, Mac, and you're bragging about that. That's the last piece of the puzzle for the Knicks.
That's
Shake
what they
Milton.
Listen
to yourself.
I am listening to myself. Anyway.
This is a team. There's a couple of concerns. You can take the glass half full approach, and the Knicks have managed to keep their heads above water, stay in fourth place, although they're closer to the play-in tournament than they are to third place. So that's, again, they're only a couple of games ahead of the play-in. Yes, these other players have stepped up, and that will help them, I think, come playoff time, because they won't have got a lot of rust on them. One guy you left out, who maybe didn't, he's lighting the world on fire statistically, but McBride's averaged like 46 minutes a game or something the last, 6 or 7 games. So this part will help, assuming everybody comes back healthy. The good part about Randall and Abu Dhabi, who I'll never say his name right, I apologize. Being down will keep them, hopefully they get back and get their rhythm back and whatnot before the playoffs. And they can be fresher, because Randall's been really beat up in the playoffs the last few years. The downside is Brunson, who's been super tough. He's had injury after injury after injury as well, but keeps coming back after missing a game or so. How banged up is he going to be come playoff time? And that's going to be a huge factor for this team. But you stayed alive. Good teams find a way to stay afloat when your best players are down, and they've done that. And you got to credit the bench and Thibodeau and even Rose for bringing in some players to help bridge the gap.
Yeah, they're kind of staying afloat there, and right now that's all they got to do is make it to the playoffs, Keith. That's the goal. Make it to the playoffs, and you got a shot.
Don't be in the play-in, too. Don't be in the play-in. That's
if you can help it. Yeah,
I think it's absolutely necessary to avoid that play-in tournament.
I do agree with that. Let's see. We had a Damian Lillard moves into fourth place. He was in my top 5. He moved into fourth place with 3-point shooters. Quite a feat. But he's been around a long time. I mean, it's not like he's a newer player. He was with one team the majority of his career. Yeah. So Damian Lillard moves into fourth place all time. Congratulations to him. LeBron sits out. and Davis gets hurt, and they still beat the Bucks. Bucks are a funny team. They can play good sometimes, and sometimes they underwhelm you, I should say.
Well, Damian Lillard, congratulations, yes, but play a little bit of defense and your team will do better. This team's defense is just atrocious. They played well. They had a really good streak after the All-Star break, and now they've lost a couple in a row. This team is too good to be getting beat in some of the games that they get beat. But
the way they lost, Keith, the way they lost to the Lakers without LeBron, Damian Lillard takes the last shot of the game, going for the game winner, and Spencer Dinwiddie blocks the shot. Spencer Dinwiddie with a big defensive play on Damian Lillard to win it. I've said it before. The Bucks, Middleton has had a major effect on the Bucks, them not having him. Although they have a decent record, he's their one missing piece. If he comes back healthy for the playoffs, I mean, it's going to increase the Bucks' chances. But right now, despite the parity in the NBA, it looks like the Celtics on their own little island, they're going to be really tough to beat 4 games in any series.
The Bucks have lost their identity from when they won a championship, and they brought in Lillard. They brought in a new coach, and when they were winning a championship, everybody knew their role. Giannis was the star. Middleton was a great third piece. They had Drew Holiday. You had Portis, who I thought was a guy off the bench who just did all the dirty work. Everybody knew what their job was, though. Now I don't see an identity to that team like they had in the past. And the way they play defense, I can't see them going very far in the playoffs right now.
I agree. The one thing the Knicks do have is a defense. That's for sure.
They played very good.
4 points. Orlando beat them a couple times. Last real NBA update, Oklahoma City records second straight win over the Heat. You got Jimmy Butler, and then you got role players. I don't know if Miami can do what it did last year or the year before and make it as far as they did in the playoffs.
Well, they started to pick up some momentum before the last couple of games. They're still 7-3 in their last 10. They've moved out of the play-in tournament, which is a good thing. They were wallowing, around 500 for a lot of the year, and they're getting healthy and playing better at the right time. Whether they can make a magical run like they made last year, which was from the play-in tournament, if I'm not wrong, they might have been the 8th seed or the 10th. Were they 8th seed? I think they were like the 8th seed last year.
Yes.
So that's a great run, but they're lacking. And Eric Spoelstra is one of the most. I've said this for a while. He's one of the most underrated coaches in the NBA, but they just don't have, to me, enough talent. He's outside of Butler and exactly. The center, who his name is escaping me, but they're not deep enough to compete to get to the finals again. I don't think.
All right, Keith. So that's Keith Engel. TGI Sports Talk will be up. He'll be leaving to start his show up. I'm going to let you go, Keith, before I start talking about what we talked on Friday. I'm going to get Sonja's point of view on women's sports and, what has exploded, especially with men's views. So we're going to have Sonja, since she is the woman on this panel. We'll see what her thoughts are on that. So Keith,
I was glad you got through the picketers outside your studio.
Did you see that? Yeah, I had to call it on that. But, hey, listen. Anyway, have a great one, Keith, and we'll see you next Friday.
All right, guys, have a good Sunday.
Take care, Keith.
You too, Keith.
Bye.
Thanks to Keith Engel. Always does a great job with us. So, Sonja, I got a little controversial on Friday. It's rare that I do that. So, once in a while I do this. And I dedicated most of the show to women's sports and the change, the revolution in women's sports, in tennis, in basketball, and in most sports, where the women are now, I guess, they're using their sexuality to their advantage, which I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think if you got an advantage to use, use it. So I don't know about you, but I don't know if you're old enough to remember Chrissy Everett. Chrissy Everett was, all in white. She was kind of dainty. They had that little brief affair with Jimmy Connors. I mean, they were like the couple in tennis. I mean, it was. She looked she was just cute, right? She was like an angel stroking from the back the back line. She wasn't that aggressive.
They call the little Chrissy Everett, Matt.
That's right. That's exactly right. In fact, she won a lot of tournaments just playing for the back line. And then come Martina Navratilova and her biceps, and she, a little bit more stronger and aggressive. And then that kind of spawned the Williams sisters, especially Serena. And the outfits have changed, right? The outfits went from that little white dress and white undergarments to skin tight spandex. So
Yeah.
So I mean, the change has been phenomenal, especially for us older guys like me and Jack. But I mean, I think this is a concentrated effort to get men views and female tennis. Do you agree?
Yeah, so I'm always, the one that stays right in between. I don't, take sides, even though I am a female. I come from the age of Mary Lou Retton, so that gives you guys a little perspective. I'm a mid-70s born, but raised in the 80s. So I remember, just little brief segments of what you talked about, because I remember her name very well, but I think I was really young. But I will say, I have seen the change in the uniforms. I grew up extremely modern, but very sheltered, coming from a very religious background. So I personally, don't agree with the uniform changes. Even when they had the tennis skirts, I just believe that I should say modest. I come from a modest family. I do feel like, unfortunately, we always hear that added sex sells, and I think it has spilled over into sports. I feel like you don't always have to flaunt it if you have it. I feel like your talent should supersede whatever you actually visually look like, because at the end of the day, it's not about what you look like. It's about how you perform the sport. And so, I actually have thought those same thoughts, really meticulous in how I express them, especially to female viewers or female fans, or even friends I'm having discussions with. But unfortunately, and especially as we, progress through different generations, we see that it is just more pronounced. We see that as more females are involved in the sports, that you do have some that still, remain modest. But in case of the Williams sisters, I mean, they kind of like, one of them, I believe, was designing her own outfits. But this even takes me back to when Florence Griffith Joyner was running track back in the 80s. She's like my favorite track star. She had the one leg out, outfit, but it was still considered modest. She wasn't showing a lot of flesh. But unfortunately, it's about, like Oregon's coach said, clicks and likes. So if they can show skin and win, then it's a double win for
I think you look at somebody, say, let's go back on the gymnast side, which really has exploded with men's views. You really don't see male gymnasts unless it's the Olympics. Not Comaneci, Nadia Comaneci, when she won the gold medal, and her outfit was very, very modest. I mean, it was not tight fitting. And then you go to, the college female gymnasts, every week they're on now. And of course, again, those outfits hug every curve. And I think, again, the females, I don't know if the girls want to be like that. I imagine they got some heroes in some of these sports, but it's to get the men's views. I mean, why would you dress like that? And
I just want to cut in figure skating.
It has to be form fitted because it's supposed to be as snug to the skin as possible, so that the events they're participating in, you don't want to trip over extra cloth. But there is a way to dress. I do agree. There is a way to dress, because in my opinion, sometimes you see, the rear end, the cheeks of the rear end with some of these outfits. And I'm like, wow, I don't think that was necessary. But again, we're living in a time that, these new generations are just looking at things way different. And at the end of the day, it's about, sex sales, and they want the views, and they may come out there, with pasties on one day. Who knows?
Wow, that would be shocking. What were you going to say, Jack?
Yeah, I think in the sport of women's figure skating, the outfits are extra important, more important than any other sport, because scoring's subjective and you want to look good. You want to have a really nice outfit that's eye-catching. So as soon as they take the ice and they're set to perform their program, they want to leave a good impression with the judges at that moment. You know, it can only help. I think when you're talking about outfits as far as catching other people's attention, it only affects the elite players, a very few of them. A sport like tennis, a women tennis player, she has to win her matches on the court. If she's the 25th best player in the world, what does it matter what she has on? I mean, she's not going to get the endorsement deals unless she's a winner.
I don't necessarily agree with that. I think when you're modeling, even if you're number 25, if you look really good, I think you get contracts. You're going to get commercials because of that. A lot of it has to do with the way they look. And in fact, I wanted to say something. I'm trying to be more delicate than I was on Friday.
No, it depends how much charisma the athlete has. It took Coco Gauff a while to win a major in tennis. She finally did it. So she could win less majors than another woman athlete, but she has a certain amount of charisma. She's very likable. Okay.
Sure,
she's very clean cut. She's a good looking girl. She's well spoken. So she's the type that sponsors want to give opportunities to. So obviously she's very conscious of the way she's going to dress, and she wants it to be a fine balance, something that would appeal to everybody.
So Jason
I mean that in the positive sense.
Yes. So Jason Gonzalez asked, do you think feminists are responsible for empowering female athletes?
So the key word to look at, and thank you for your question, Jason. Good morning. The key word to look at is empowering. And by him using the word empowering, I would have to slightly agree, because I do feel like they, at least at a minimum, ignited the spark that was within all women to let them know that, you too can be on the same platform as men. You too can be successful. You too can get the awareness, the exposure that men do, and you too can win just as much as men do, as well as you deserve the same accolades, the same praise. It should be no difference. Feminists often believe, men and women are equal in everything. And so for, in sports, we see it. We're seeing more women referees in both the NBA and the NFL. We saw Jessica King become one of the offensive assistants in Chicago with the Bears organization, and she's now the first. So we're seeing a lot of the first. And at some point, we're not going to see, the first anymore. It's just going to be, okay, this female over here has this. And so, and like Jason says, we see athletes like Coco Gauff, definitely very athletic, very beautiful girl. Now, she does not expose herself. I love Coco. I think she's really great. She looks like she's a nice young lady, very humble beginnings. And so when we look at athletes like there's still a standard that we as women want to look like, we want to appear like. But to answer the question, I think it was all ignited because someone somewhere decided, hey, it's time for us to show up and basically show out.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And this has nothing to do with Taylor Swift. Sorry, people out there. She had nothing to do with this. But even if you look at our friend Renee Washington, very, very talented, a great spokesperson. She does a great job on a network television show. But if you look at her profile picture, you look at some of the videos she posts. I mean, they're very they're not risque. That she's walking around in a bikini. She's she's not. It's not her getting up in the morning. Is what I'm trying to say, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, she looks beautiful. And again, this is another example of a woman in some profession using her looks as an advantage. And again, I'm not taking nothing away from Renee. I think she does a great job, but it does help that you are a good looking woman. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I guess you could look at it like when I come on you guys' show, I always get my makeup done. I'm not going to just get up and come on here, now from the, neck up, because we're all virtual. That's all you see. But I'm going to make sure I take the extra time, no matter what I look like, to at least be presentable at a minimum, to try to accentuate whatever I have, because I do want us to have more viewers. I do want to make myself more marketable, and not just someone that knows a little about sports or knows a lot about football or whatever, but that people want to tune in and say, oh, okay, because it's easy, and this is just coming from a woman's view. It's easy for, and I grew up as a tomboy. It's easy for me as a tomboy to get on here, just ponytail, no makeup, everything, and just talk sports. And people may tune in for that, but it's just something that piques the curiosity of men, of you guys, the male species, when they see someone that is attractive or that looks at least, above average, and they know what they're talking about, or they know how to perform in an athletic dominated world.
Sure. I'd agree with that. As opposed to me and Jack, who do not put on our best stuff to come out.
Wait. I prepare Mac in the morning. You speak for yourself. I mean, I comb my hair. I mean, it's not so long. I mean,
yes, right. I mean, I do make sure.
I take a few seconds, literally, to get ready.
Yes.
I mean, I kind of go back. I go back a little bit to caveman times. Men kill the food, bring it in. You're offer. They were very muscular. If you look into any history or anything about the evolution of man, men by nature are naturally stronger. They're made different than females are. Females are always considered the daintier of the sexes. Men are already predisposed and presupposed to be these athletic creatures, this athletic being, this athletic, all-knowing, mentally and physically performing in an athletic dominated world. Whereas females, we have to show up, we have to prove, okay, we can do this too. So we go the extra mile because we want people to see us. I mean, some feminists say as equals, but I want to say at least on a competitive level. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, that makes sense. And of course, it's not just sports. Waitresses have been doing it for years. They show as much cleavage as legally possible to get tips. So that's
I was a waitress, and I always said that Hooters is legalized prostitution. I've always said that it's like a country thing.
All right. Well, there went the Hooters deal for our ads. That's shot now. Anyway. All right. So Jack, let me get. I was going to question James on this because we talked to Keith about this. So Jack is my second choice on this. But anyway, he's here, so he's my first choice. So the unionization of college sports they tried it. I think it was in Oregon on the West Coast, and Oregon said, well, you do that, we'll just shut down the program. And of course, they backed off. But at Dartmouth College, here up in the Northeast, small school, the basketball team has now unionized. They want to get paid. Of course, they want the benefits that come along with it. And, this is not just a shot in the dark. This is definitely has been thought about how to proceed. It's sort of a trial balloon between the union and the college basketball players. I think all the sports college athletes around the country are waiting to see what happens here, to see whether Dartmouth says, well, okay, if you want to do this, we're not going to play basketball. And I think it's a sort of a trial balloon, Jack, where they're going to see what happens, the fan response, the public response, any kind of legal stuff that can happen. Will the government get involved? Will the mayor or something get involved? I think they're going to use this as a blueprint eventually to do this in all across the country in all college sports. Jack, what do you think about the unionization of college basketball at Dartmouth?
Dartmouth leading the way. Are you kidding? Does anyone care nationwide?
That's what they want.
Does anyone even know Dartmouth has a team nationwide? I mean, come on. Dartmouth leading the way isn't going to have a big effect. It's basically like a major school intramural team saying, oh, we're not going to have intramurals unless we're given certain benefits, certain this, certain that. People aren't going to care nationwide. I mean, as far as unionization goes, how long are these athletes going to be in a school to be part of a union? If they're truly elite, they can go to the next level after 1 or 2 years. So they're not, you don't have the 4-year elite athlete anymore. I mean, at least that's very, very rare. I mean, why do we make a big deal about Kenny Pickett in the NFL, a Desmond Ridder, because they played 4 years in college? So we say they have maturity. They're like because they're an exception to the rule. Players are coming out early all along, and they're still experimenting with college. You know what I'd like to see the colleges do? Fight back. No one gets a scholarship unless you've earned it academically. And if you've earned an academic scholarship, you then go out for the team. But that's never going to happen, of course, because of all the revenue that's made. So, of course, one way or another, these big-time college programs, and Dartmouth isn't one of them, is going to have to, give back something.
Well, one thing about it, if they unionize, they could actually expand the amount of time that they can play. If you think about it, Mac-Jack and James, because if you're unionized, you set everything in your favor. So if they want to play 10 years in college, so be it.
I agree. And I'll take it a step further. Good morning, James. To let you know, you're fine for being in late. So when you get a notice in the mail, and it might be interest attached to that for every minute. So let's think about this for a minute, Jack. Why wouldn't the union want to do this at a small school first? This way, it doesn't draw the national attention it did in Oregon. This way, they can work out the kinks without it being as publicly known as a big university. That's to me is the perfect. This is what they should have done originally, because you're not going to have the whole nation looking at that. All it's looking at, and of course we're looking at it now because I'm bringing it to everybody's attention that this is going to happen. And Sonja is right. Why not? They got people playing in the college right now for 8 years. Why wouldn't they stick around if there's a union and they're getting benefits and they're getting paid, Jack?
How many players would get benefits? How many players have big value?
Everyone.
Not on a football team.
Everyone, Jack.
37th guy isn't getting any 54. Benefits. He's lucky to have a scholarship.
Everyone's going to get it. And you watch. And James, let me know what you think here. We'll let you talk now. Don't you think that this is the first trial balloon of what's going to happen in college sports? And when it does happen, it's not just going to be the men, right? Title IX. It's going to be the women. It's going to lead to everybody that has any kind of scholarship in college. Now, this is not going to happen right away. Of course not. But eventually this is going to happen. You're going to have everybody that's associated with any team in that university in the union because Title IX will go crazy.
I mean, we're talking about, let's go back to the history of college football. I don't know what you guys were discussing from the beginning here, but we're talking about the amateurism discussion. That's terrible. I mean, ultimately, these kids were working for free. I mean, I get the adage of, hey, you're getting a full ride of scholarship and going to college and getting a 4-year degree, but most kids don't go. I mean, look at basketball. Most kids are one and done. They get out and go straight to the league. But football, I mean, football is it's a dominant money maker. It makes the majority of the money. It pays for scholarships for other sports. I mean, these guys are virtually out there paying, they're breaking their backs this is what they want. Don't get me wrong. Nobody tied their hands or made them force them to do this, but this is what it is. I mean, it's a dominant money maker. I remember the incident. We can go back to Todd Gurley, if you remember, in Georgia, yes, when he got busted for signing an autographed jersey. This kid's, I'm not saying, I don't know his personal life. I don't know his family's business regarding their financial situation, but he's trying to make money. But meanwhile, the tickets, what do they cost? Like $50-$60? Minimum. To get into a college football game, to watch a game, and they're making hand over fist. Why can't these kids get a share of the pie? And I agree regarding the union and the unionization and making it a situation, because ultimately college football is a farm system. kids are being watched to go into the pros. And not all these kids are going to make it to the pros. I mean, that's the other thing. Most of these kids are groomed from the age of 5, 6, 7, 8, middle school, high school, to go play sports.
Listen,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I agree with most of what you said there. But you're talking from one extreme to another. You're talking about Todd Gurley signing a shirt, somebody getting a hamburger, somebody getting a haircut, somebody getting a jet plane ticket ride to go see, to go do a funeral. I get it. That was wrong. But now you're going to go from that to paying everyone in a program, even the ones that don't make money. We just talked about the cornhole scholarship that happened, up in Winthrop College, where they're going to pay half your scholarship if you can put a beanbag in a hole. So they're going to have to pay these guys too, or they're going to allow these people in a union where they don't make the money. So I don't think there's a happy medium. I think this is a train going down the tracks until the money runs out. And you're going to keep going back to the boosters and to say, we need more money. We need more. And well, eventually they're going to say, hey, listen, I ain't got no more money to give you.
They're going to bankrupt the system. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah. So then what happens, James? I mean, here's all these guys you think should get money, and the future guys aren't going to get any.
I mean, you got guys who stay in college anyway because they're not going to ever reach the maturation level to get in the NFL. Now that we have NIL deals, I think there has to be a balance that's struck at some point, because you can't pay these athletes forever. They're now coming up with all these extra stuff, cornhole tournaments and stuff like that. Like, what in the world? It's almost like everything else. Once they start doing stuff, they run it into the ground. Like you said, we're going to be looking at colleges that are literally going to run out of money. They're going to have a cutoff. They're going to have to say, okay, we have 25 players that are getting this, end of story. And even with this union, you're going to have to come, because the union is nothing but basically something that's supposed to protect the person that is participating, be it a job or what have you. But but unions all the time, they don't just come in and dominate. They have to come up with a happy medium, kind of like a mediator system that's going to have to be in place that both sides reach an agreement and stick to it. Because if they allow a union to monopolize what's already occurred, it's like they could change it from year to year. And like you said, it's just going to be tanked in the end. We're not going to even have college sports in 40 years from now because of stuff that's going on right now at that rate.
So Jack, I started with you. Let me end this with you. So say Dartmouth says, okay, guys, program's done. We're not paying you, just like they did in Oregon or wherever it happened the first. We're not paying you. Forget it. Basketball's done. Can you imagine the lawsuits saying these kids can't unionize? That's a right they should have. And NIL provides money, and everybody else is getting money. And you're going to say these kids can't get money? What do you think happens there?
They're not going to say they can't unionize, but they can drop the program if they want, in case closed, and then it's all over. But why would they want to? But they can. They have that option to push back.
Yeah. So I mean, this is something that again I talked about with Keith. There's I call it the next progression, right? You're getting money, then where the money is, the union is. There come the benefits. It's pro. Let's have a draft. Let's get it over with. Let's just say draft the college kids over there, sign them the contracts in college so they can't move. Draft them, and then they're on to the high school kids, which is going to be terrible. And I guarantee you, they're already looking at college kids. High school kids. They're already trying to get them to sign contracts, especially in baseball. It's a crazy thing happening out there right now. So let's talk a little bit. Well, the Philly guy should be in. We'll talk a little bit about the Philly. Listen, Chris Jones, $95 million. Is it all guaranteed? I mean, is a defensive tackle. I know he's great. I mean, he's a great defensive tackle. So is Darnold. So is a few other guys. I mean, you have just upped the cutoff, or you have said this is a new standard. $95 million. Jack, you have a big defensive tackle. We got a big defensive tackle in the Giants. Who can afford keeping these guys around for $95 million?
For more than $95 million. $95 million is guaranteed. So
right.
Yeah.
Well,
He's 29 years old. It'll take him through the age of 34. How productive he'll be on the back end of the contract. I mean, that's kind of questionable. But they badly want a three-peat next year. They badly need Chris Jones. And if they win the Super Bowl next year, it's worth it. You know, the contract has been worth it. But, I mean, it's a good signing for the Chiefs. And Chris Jones, I know you could compare him to other players, and it's something like that third highest guarantee on a defensive lineman ever. But it's worth it for the Chiefs. It's kind of win-win for both sides. He maybe could have made a little more on the open market, but he kind of gave in a little bit, and they went up a bit. So it's good they worked it out. Kudos to both sides.
I think it's way too much for a defensive tackle. I mean, he doesn't.
Well, they would have lost him then, Mac. You don't offer the money, you lose Chris Jones, the harder your defensive.
Goodbye. See you later. I'll find me another.
He's going to get that money regardless.
I'm not going to say goodbye to him, but what Mac, I will say, is probably way too much for someone his age. It's probably something because a defensive tackle is a premium position, and you can see how dominant he was the past couple of seasons. Now I mean, ultimately most guys are in their prime until they're 30, 31, 32. I guess it would depend on the scheme, how, like Jack alluded to, that, you know, it's a question mark what he's going to be like towards the end of his contract, but $95 million makes him the highest. And then you have to also go off of the previous guy, or the guy that got his contract, which is Justin Matabuki. He got 4 years, $98 million. So it kind of went off that. You can kind of see that guy got paid. And Chris had leverage. He had leverage because they know what his skill set was. And they know, like Jack said, they want this guy for the championship potentially next season. And he had the leverage.
James, he's not a quarterback. He's not a cornerback. He's not a wide receiver. He's not even a running back. He's not a linebacker. He's a defensive tackle. He's a guy that I'm not saying he's not a great defensive tackle. He is. Is he the best? I don't know. I mean, there are some there that are in that discussion. I just think $95 million guaranteed. What's going to happen to their salary cap next year? Are they going to be able to pay the other players that are on the team? And if they don't win the Super Bowl, then what?
You know, Mac, you're always complaining and making a point about Tom Brady. Well, they won with great defense. He was only a game manager. You always keep pointing to the defensive unit. So when a player like Chris Jones gets paid the heart and soul of the Chiefs defensive unit, you're saying he's getting too much. And then you say, well, he's not a quarterback. Like it's okay if a quarterback gets big money, but not, I mean, doesn't that make sense? Chris Jones.
Doesn't that make sense?
Meanwhile, their franchise, L'Jarius Sneed.
How big is the playbook of the quarterback compared to the playbook of a defensive tackle, Jack? What is the responsibility of a quarterback?
I'm not arguing a quarterback in general is more valuable. I mean, a franchise quarterback is harder to get. But is Chris Jones worth the money, the bottom line, with what he's contributed in the past and what he can contribute for at least the next 2 or 3 years? Is he worth it? Does he have 3 good years left in him? Look at it that way. If he has 3 good years left in him, if they win a Super Bowl, they say compare him to Aaron Donald. After the Rams won the Super Bowl, they didn't have to give Aaron Donald the big deal, but they gave it to him. And you tell me, has he been worth it going forward? You know, iffy. Maybe yes, maybe no.
I'll tell you no. Definitely not.
I mean, hold on. If you're going to compare him to a quarterback, you have to look at what the average for the superstar quarterbacks is. I mean, what is it, like 55 million? This guy's making 19 million a year if you want to break it down like that. And he's the anchor and the best defensive player on their team. You're not going to pay your best defensive player?
I would say McDuffie.
That would be guaranteed. Wait, James makes a good point. He has a 5-year deal, 95 million guaranteed. Worst case scenario, if he flops completely, you're paying him an average of $19 million a year. That's
okay. That's all right. To pay somebody $19 million a year to be a flop, I'd say.
But he's not going to be a flop. No, he's
position is way more important than the franchise L'Jarius Sneed.
He doesn't get injured. he'll be a decent player. If his skill set declines, he'll still be good.
Jack, you said the example. I'm just following up. Do you think he's more important than McDuffie was this year?
Yes.
Yeah,
Really?
definitely. He's the leader there. Yeah. No, Chris Jones is the leader. You can argue and make a good argument. Next to Patrick Mahomes, he's the most valuable player on the Kansas City Chiefs, including Travis Kelce. You can make that argument.
I think the fact that they franchised L'Jarius Sneed, they put the non-exclusive franchise tag on L'Jarius Sneed, who really deserved to get paid. He's a cornerback. I think his role was more important, in my opinion, than Chris Jones. And they literally put the non-exclusive franchise tag on him Monday, which gives him permission to talk to other teams and possibly be traded.
No, if he was more important, they wouldn't allow him talking to other teams. They're probably going to move on from Snead.
Right.
The Chiefs didn't let Chris Jones get to that point. They let him know when the season ended, we're working things out. Mm-hmm. Chris Jones had a little more leverage than just being a great player because he held out last year. The Chiefs didn't want that scenario again. That would be very ugly. They wanted him there from the get-go.
It all goes down to fundamentals. I mean, breaking down the defense, in the trenches. When you break that down, everybody else eats. The linebackers eat. The cornerbacks eat. The safety eats. That's the guy in the middle. That's the most important. Okay, if you can consistently do that, 2 to 3 plays a series. I mean, it's just hard to not pay that guy.
James, you could say the same thing. If the secondary covers the receivers good, it gives the defensive line chance to get to the quarterback. If the linebackers, push it back into the middle to the defense, I mean that to me is not a good argument.
No, it is. But look at the pressure Chris Jones is putting on the quarterbacks during the playoffs.
Right.
He took Lamar Jackson out of his comfort zone. He forced Brock Purdy to release the ball earlier than he wanted to. I mean, it was invaluable, the amount of pressures he put on the quarterback. It didn't show up in sacks, but the pressures are maybe the most underrated statistic in football.
And I remember at one time you thought that statistic meant nothing. If you said that about Thibodeau or somebody like that, or the big cat, Jack didn't want to hear that at one time.
Thibodeau wasn't putting on real pressures. After he released the ball, he'd sprint towards him and make it look close at that moment.
That dude is out of his mind. Anyway, until the Philly sports guy gets in here, let's start doing his Phillies. He was at the Flyers game last night and was all mad about the refs because the Flyers lost. And, the losing teams always blame the refs. But, and I don't know if he's doing his makeup again with that guy who videotaped him and was, talking about different shades and makeups and all that good stuff. I know if he comes in, I'm going to ask him that first. But anyway, so let's see. The makeup takes 76ers without Embiid and Maxey lose to the Pelicans. I don't know if they would have beat the Pelicans with Maxey or with Embiid. The Pelicans are a pretty good team. Embiid's probably out for the season. They better get used to playing without him. I know they're in search of a big guy. Maxey.
And he might be back for the playoffs. Then
he might. They don't know yet. Yeah, they don't know yet. So I mean, I say you go forward thinking he's not going to be there. If he's there, it's a plus. But Maxey
go forward. You can't go forward if he's not there. They're not winning an NBA championship.
I agree. They probably won't make it.
They're a little bit of a long shot.
I think they don't even want to play.
He said he was trying to come back. Regardless if they made a playoff run, Joel said he's trying to come back.
Right. But right now, Maxey is a leader of that 76er team. Incredible player, somebody that kind of was held back a little bit by Doc Rivers, maybe good, maybe bad. So anyway, they do lose to the Pelicans. I know, James, you're down there. You follow New Orleans sports still. What do you think about the Pelicans? Listen, they're playing good ball. With or without their star.
Right now they're red hot. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of parity in the West right now. It's a very tight race for everybody. And I think the key for the Pelicans is for nobody to be injured, because its injuries are hitting everybody across the board of their major stars, and which is odd. I mean, it's like Must be something in the air. Must be a full moon or something going on. Because I mean, all the major stars, including LeBron, Steph, Big Cat, some other guy, the guy for Cleveland, Donovan Mitchell. These guys have been hit with injuries, man. And so, and some of their teams are doing well without them. Like Cleveland beat Boston and they beat Minnesota. But the Pelicans, man, they're healthy right now. They're prime. Looks like everything goes around Zion Williamson, whether or not he can stay in shape and stay healthy. If he stays healthy, man, they can make a run in the playoffs.
I wanted to ask you about Zion, because I've always been a major booster Zion Williamson. I felt if he stayed completely healthy, motivated, he could be one of the top 5 players in the NBA. A genuine, possibly a generational player, but it's not quite panning out that way. He's a heck of a good player, but there's a difference. He's an all-star caliber player, but not a great player. And he's played the minutes. He's stayed healthy. And it seems like he's bought into the team concept, okay? He's blended in nicely. Sometimes they blend around him. But I've been looking for a true superstar in Zion Williamson, and I'm starting to think we're never going to see that. We're just going to see maybe an all-star type player, but not a dominant player.
I think, that's a valid point because he's been in the league for a few years now. I think he's just been lazy. Charles Barkley had a good segment about him, and he was saying Charles was alluding to, he wasn't just chopping at the kid. He had a valuable experience himself when Charles was known as the round mound of rebound, and when he first came out of Auburn to the 76ers, and he was just fat, out of shape, and then his teammate a veteran told him that. He said, man, what's going on? He said you just lazy, and he said, but I'll give you time. I'll work with you, and he said that stuck with him. And he did the work. He lost like 50 pounds, and he never put that weight back on the rest of his career. And I think there needs somebody in Zion's corner to just say, look, man, you have the potential, like Jack said, to be a superstar, but you need to put in the work. And I think right now, looking at him, I've been seeing pictures of him. Look like he's trying to put in the work. So time will tell. I think he has the potential, like you said, to be a great star. But time will tell. I think next year or this playoffs will show that. We'll see.
I think the Pelicans have been extremely patient with Zion because it has been some time now since we've seen the caliber of play that he brought into the league coming from Duke. Ever since he had that shoe blowout, it just seems like it's something consistently wrong with Zion from an overall perspective. And I know that a lot of us think it's strictly weight related, but the weight itself does have a lot to do, but I think it's also performance issues. And maybe we may just be looking at someone that kind of like how when we see NFL players go into the league, they're just not as great as they should have been, or are they able to be, because the NBA is just, a whole different animal as opposed to college sports.
It's a whole different animal compared to most of the sports, right? You got to play offense and defense basically at the same time, or to turn over a ball. Where you're in baseball and football, you have an offensive team, you have a defense, and they take breaks in between. It's that's what I give NBA and hockey more than any other sports, is how they got to play both things virtually almost at the same time. So you got to be a great athlete to compete in those two sports. So I know James wants to say something about Michael Thomas. I thought we were done with him, but James wants to resurrect Michael Thomas somewhere else, I guess.
Talk about a ninja player.
Yeah. Let me first go on by saying that Michael Thomas for the New Orleans Saints is probably their most dominant wide receiver, and the best will go down probably the best all time as their best wide receiver. This guy had 565 receptions in a matter of from 2016 till now. But let's go from 2016 to 2019. I mean, this guy had 1,000 yards each time. He was average, and he had 2 seasons where he had 125 or more receptions, and there was no second guy for the Saints during that time, and he got doubled, sometimes tripled. I mean, this guy still would catch the ball. He had 80% of his catches, so he was a phenomenal player. It's just a freak accident that happened, and he just seemed to never recover. He never recovered, man. And then, of course, with some off the field incidents, I think there were just some bitter grapes about not, missing some of his prime years. And I don't know what happened between him and the organization to where it just soured. But clearly, as people, the old adage is the best ability is availability. And he just hasn't been available the past few seasons. And so now it's just a breakup, but it wasn't really truly a release. They signed him to a 1-year deal last year. They readjusted restructured his contract to a 1-year deal and made it incentive later. And they just went from there. But if you look at the contract, he was due, if they were to keep him this season, $119 million. And of course, they weren't going to pay him that. But ultimately, what was the straw that broke the camel's back were those tweets, during games and different things, and fractured relationship with the quarterback that he has now. Even if you don't like the quarterback, you don't bust him out in public, like say for instance Terrell Owens, that kind of thing. He was given that sort of vibe, in the organization. And this is what I really don't like now is the tweets towards the end. If you're someone who's on the wrong side of 30 and you're trying to get a job with another future employer, they're watching this. They're watching what you're doing and saying like, okay, maybe I'm not going to give this guy, a job or maybe some of the money he wants because he's going to have to prove it. And typically, when you're on that side of 30, you're supposed to be a veteran leader. You're supposed to be a locker room guy. You're supposed to be somebody saying, it just didn't work out, but hey, we can go to another place and give him another shot. And I'll be honest with you, I sincerely hope he gets another shot. But it's just, and he will play, but I just don't know I don't think we're going to ever see the Michael Thomas or what could have been the Michael Thomas if it wasn't for those injuries.
Would he be a good fit for the Jets?
Oh, you think everybody's a good fit for the Jets?
No. They need a second receiver, an impact receiver outside of Garrett Wilson. They really badly need that, the Jets, and they might be able to get Michael Thomas cheaply. But then again, you said it best, James. If he can't stay on the field, it's a waste.
And not only that, you don't want somebody with an attitude. And James makes a great point. A lot of players now, when they're leaving a team, badmouth their teams like coaches have been doing, and it's hard for them to get a job by doing it.
I don't blame them completely. It's Derek Carr who's there as the quarterback. Come on.
Yeah, but
I don't
still,
blame him. I'll admit Michael Thomas didn't show leadership when Drew Brees made the comment about he standing for the anthem. He's never disrespected by not. Michael Thomas didn't have to get into it with him on social media. He could have called Drew Brees up and they could have talked it out. Once you start getting into things on social media, players back and forth, I mean, it's hard to ever recover from, because even if you're okay with that player, people like us are always going to remind the players of what went down and ask if things okay with you guys, and they get tired of hearing that.
That's somebody seeking a lot of attention. I'm looking at the 5 best wide receivers in Saints history. Marquez Colson comes in at number 1. Joe Horn, number 2. Eric Martin, number 3. Michael Thomas is at number 4. And Danny Abramowicz, whoever that guy is number 5. That's probably a guy from 67 to 73. That sounds like he was playing when Manning was playing, was quarterback there. So,
since this is my team, let me jump in on that. Marcus Colston statistically is the number 1 receiver, but impact, there's been no other receiver in their history that has left an impact during their time playing than Michael Thomas. Man, it's just Joey Horn had Willie Jackson to play on side of him. Marcus Colston had Drew Brees the majority of his career, and he had a plethora of other receivers to be on the field that were good in their own right. But Michael Thomas is, man, I've watched almost every game of the Saints, man, and I can just say he without a doubt during the time he played was the best receiver. But yes, though all those other guys are great. I'm fans of all those guys.
Well, James, I think secretly you are Michael Thomas's agent, and you're coming in here and you're trying to pump him up a little bit.
Let's get him on with the Jets, baby.
All right, so let's talk some Jets news. Word out that Rodgers getting injured last year and a weak offensive line may cause him to play only one more year. Rodgers wants to play 3 or 4 more years. I don't know what a 3-4 year from now Aaron Rodgers would look like. He definitely will be a couple steps slower. So, Jack, would it be – I mean, what would happen if Aaron Rodgers – that was it? There you had your quarterback for that year that got hurt. I mean, what would you think of that? Or he plays next year, and that's it.
But we don't know what the future holds. He's going to be an older quarterback. How effective a quarterback's going to be at 43, 44. He's going to be turning 40, I think, pretty soon. Has he turned 40 already? Google that and look that up. It's close. But he's the quarterback next year, bottom line. Let's see how he looks. Reportedly, in practice sessions with the Jets at the end of the year, even though we didn't see him in game conditions, he dazzled some of his teammates with how he looked. But then again, compared to practicing against Zach Wilson and Trevor Siemian, that could have been the reason why. And the Jets have a lot of holes on the offensive line. They need like 3 offensive linemen. They need another receiver. They need another running back. Let them fill up those holes and see how Rodgers looks. I get the feeling he's committed to a few more years. He gave up $35 million of his money to make this work in the long haul. I can't see him leaving the Jets on his own after 1 year because that would be a failure. The question is, if the Jets don't have a good year and he's mediocre, are they going to stick with him an additional year? Probably, but they're going to also try to groom a young quarterback.
I agree with that. Sonia, I'll let you go now. Any Panthers news that is significant that we should be that's a trick question. Any news coming out of Carolina? What do you got? Go ahead, Sonia.
Sonia, this is the only show of all shows that's not a direct Carolina Panther, podcast that you can hear Carolina Panther news on. None of the other shows talk about the Panthers.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Your show.
Yeah, I don't have any news. Thanks so much, Mac. I was actually going to chime in on the Aaron Rodgers question.
Okay.
I just wanted to say that we don't have a precedent set for a quarterback that has such a significant injury in contrast with the age that Aaron Rodgers is. So I don't even think we're going to be seeing the same Aaron Rodgers when he takes the field from a physical standpoint, as well as the fact that he's a little older, just by a little bit, but still that's going to play into, how he heals up or whatever. His mental is tough. He has basically expressed the mind over matter situation that he will play again. But I think the Jets are really smart to kind of reevaluate the situation after a year, because his performance will decline when having such a significant injury in retrospect to how he performs, and notwithstanding the fact that he's quarterback in the Jets. Let's be clear, he's not quarterback in the Chiefs, he's quarterback in the Jets. So that right there, that lack thereof, that he's already trying to basically, raise someone from the dead is going to be a challenge for him. And yes, this is a dig at Jack because he made a comment. I was going to just stick to facts, but I'm going to just say Aaron has his work cut out from a quarterback standpoint and a miraculous standpoint for that team.
Let me do a comparison here. You mentioned his age. Kirk Cousins is coming off the same injury. Kirk Cousins is 5 years younger. James, For 1 year next year, the Saints are contender for their division. You have your choice. For 1 year, Aaron Rodgers or Kirk Cousins next year. Who do you take?
You may not like the response. I thought that's what he was going to say.
What did he say?
Kirk
Cousins.
You take Cousins over Rodgers.
Yeah.
Disagree.
Well, there you go. And
Okay.
we'll welcome in the Philly sports guy who had a late night as he ranted and raved about the Flyers losing. The refs were terrible, and it seems like the losing team is always the one that complains about the refs, Pags. So anyway, rough game for you last night.
I've never seen a coach get kicked off the bench ever. And that's really what I was complaining about. I kind of saw a little bit of this coming. We spanked Tampa Bay in Philadelphia. So I thought that they were going to give some retribution, and I thought the Flyers needed to play a little bit better, and they just looked horrible. I mean, they looked hungover. So so it wasn't like that, but it was so odd. Like I said, it's not a baseball game. You don't see the coach ever get kicked out of a hockey game. And these refs were just so bad. Like they called a tripping, the tripping penalty that they called was like ridiculous. It was
Pags, what was going on that got the coach kicked out of the game?
So that's what I'm talking about. There was a tripping penalty that they gave. The guy was trying to get through and literally fell. He didn't get tripped. He fell. And they called the tripping penalty initially on Tampa Bay, then changed it to Philadelphia. And they were like, it was just like such a ridiculous call. And then they scored their fourth goal on us. It was 4-0 at that point. We were going to lose this game anyways. I mean, they scored with 2 minutes, 4 minutes in, 9 minutes in. It was 3-0, and then they make this ridiculous call that the coach gets, Tortorella gets all pissed off and he gets ejected from the game. Like, are you kidding me? Like it was so ridiculous. And listen, I've been having a problem with refs across the board. It seems like NBA refs are the exact same way. These refs are getting very, very soft. They don't want to. They're like whiny little babies lately, and they're very quick to pull hooks. And I don't know that it's doing anything for the game
until it's a playoff time. When it's a playoff time, anything goes. They let the players play, and that's the way it pretty much is across all sports. Pags, I saw a video, and I got to ask you about this now. I mean, you're sitting there. This guy is sitting across from you, and you're talking about applying makeup. Now, I mean, what is that all about? Are you like the new fashion guy in makeup, or what's going on over there?
You saw a video about a guy, and we were talking about applying makeup.
Yeah, you were sitting across from this guy in the video. I don't know how long ago it was, but you were talking about you only use actors' makeup. You don't use the regular makeup, and it was an interview. It was an interview with a real estate agent who doesn't use makeup at all. So, I mean, he was just kind of asking some of the questions. I think that and I was like, yeah, no, it's a stage makeup, and people are interested to know. Or no shorts. That was no shorts. Because he's interested to know, like, hey, does it wash off? Because that was when, do I melt in the rain? And so rainy days are tough days for me, especially in football, because, it does come off. And the silver just kind of makes me look like the Tin Man. So, and it's just, it was just, going through the question and stuff like that, and how easy is it for it to come off in comparison to being stuck out in the rain? Some of your best work, Pags. Rainy days and Mondays get me down too, but I don't wear makeup. Just so you know. Let's.
So do the Giants. I hear the Giants get you down a lot too. You're going to lose Saquon. I heard you might get Russell Wilson.
you never know. I mean, I think Pittsburgh's.
Well, actually, Mac, and I'm glad that hi Pags, that Pags brought up Saquon. You guys have an interest in Brian Burns from the Panthers. I wanted to let you know that he was franchised. So you guys, the Giants, are interested in possibly getting the edge rusher Brian Burns from us.
Yeah, I mean, they watched the show. They know you're a big Brian Bird fan. I passed it on to him, and I said, "Hey, listen, Sonja likes him, so take a look at him." And
I like anybody that can get us a win.
Right. That's going to happen. So, Pags, let's get back to the Eagles. Brandon Graham is going to play next year. He's going to pursue a sports commentating career after that, as many people do. Coming out, you're going to get compensation picks because of some of the free agents that have signed on other teams. Now, I wasn't sure how that worked. I mean, I've heard about it before. I know the Giants have got. So if you get rid of free agents, you get some draft picks. Pretty good.
It depends on how well they sign. For instance, losing Hargrave to San Francisco netted us a 3rd-round pick. That's as high as you can get. And then we've got 2 5th-round picks and 1 6th-round pick for the guys that we lost. I think Andre Dillard was a 5th-round pick. There was Sanders. Right. Sanders got us a 5th-round pick, and then somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, Carolina should be getting like a whole top 10 picks for all the free agents that left them. I guess it's got to be that they want to leave.
The Bills are the ones that had a lot of people that left them, not the Panthers.
I know. Everybody's leaving. Yeah, everybody's leaving Buffalo. I don't know what that. Well, their salary cap is really high, so they're just unloading everybody there. Josh Sweat, subject to trade calls ahead of free agency. Pags, pretty good player you got over there.
Yeah, I mean, Josh, he is a good player. They're looking to trade him. I haven't read that.
What they're doing is they're taking. It looks like they're taking calls ahead of free agency. So teams got.
Yeah, it's a similar situation with Reddick. I think they're gauging the market, so they figure out how to re-sign him.
Yeah, what price they can bring him in, what the market is. I agree with that. Flyers traded Wade Allison in exchange for Dennis. I hope I'm saying this right. Gironov. He's played in the playoffs before. It looks like good addition or bad addition. Pags to the Flyers.
Wade Allison wasn't going to be back on this team, so anything is better than that, I guess. He just wasn't strong enough to get back up here, and they need defensive help. I mean, they had a couple guys on defense I had never seen before yesterday, and I was like, this guy, and why does he keep getting penalties? So it's like they had a ridiculous. I mean, yesterday was a bad game all the way around, but when you see guys, I mean, one guy that I had not seen before, one defender, he got 2 penalties, and they scored power play goals on both of those power plays. And it was just like, all right, well, that's the end of this game. So
I hear you. Former 76er, now a Brooklyn Net, Ben Simmons is done. He's played 15 games, made $39 million playing 15 games. He's scheduled to make $40 million next year. The agent said they did everything they could without getting the operation he needed on his back. I wouldn't get an operation either. I'm going to make $79 million in 2 years, Jack.
Yeah, what do you mean he's done? I mean, he's not done in the NBA.
He's out. No, he's done for the season for you guys. Done. He's out.
Well, yeah, I mean, the Nets were basically cooked anyway. I wonder if more was on the line for the Nets. Would he have found a way to play? Ben Simmons.
Come on. Are you kidding me? You're still an apologist for him? You're still an apologist?
He's got a lot of ability, Pags. He's got
You know what? I hope you guys re-sign him then. Please re-sign him for another $200 million.
You mean to tell me if he is healthy, if he is able to perform, you mean to tell me there's not a team out there he couldn't help? Just because the Sixers had bad coaching, you can't have it both ways with Doc Rivers. You can't put down Doc Rivers being a terrible coach.
So what's the Nets problem? What's the Nets problem?
Ben Simmons, Doc Rivers is a coach. Okay, so now he was hurt. He had some issues, some mental issues. That is a sensitive topic, but that he found his way back on the court and he gave an honest effort for the Nets. I mean,
Very honest. It was very honest. Those 15 games, he absolutely earned his $39 million.
He doesn't pass. I mean, he doesn't shoot. He won't shoot the ball. He won't even take it to the hole anymore.
He's unselfish. He's unselfish not wanting to shoot it. And the Philly fans.
Hold on, LeBron is unselfish, but
they ruined his confidence. The Philly fans.
What did you say, James? What did you say, James?
I said LeBron is unselfish, but he has 40,000 points.
Yeah,
I mean, this guy just
comparing to LeBron. You mean to tell me? Let's say you're the GM of your team, the Pelicans, and if Ben Simmons is healthy and you could fit him into your salary structure, you mean to tell me you wouldn't be intrigued by picking him up and having him on your team?
For league minimum.
Well, not league minimum.
He's a Lakers fan. He's not really a Pelicans fan.
He is stealing money, and he's going to continue to steal money because of people like you, Jack. Because of people like you.
He needs the right situation.
Yeah, the right situation is pay me because I don't want to play. That's what it is. Stop apologizing for him.
Jack,
he's a coach, Robert.
Jack, that would be like me paying you, as much as you make, by sitting there and saying nothing the whole show for the whole year. You just sit there. And you just say, Sonja, you answer that. James, you answer that. That's the same thing.
Yeah, right? Ben Simmons, so you're telling me he hasn't legitimately been hurt.
I'm telling you, it's stealing money. He's not legitimately hurt. Ow, my back. Ow! I listen. Sorry, guys, I can't do it anymore. My back hurts.
Let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Say his back really does bother him. There are a lot of players out there playing injured, contributing, and they're hurt too. Jack, you just saw Jalen.
Look,
he had surgery. He had surgery. God,
I think Embiid would want to play.
The Nets are a weak team. They're going to be a weak team for years to come unless they catch lightning in a bottle. Somehow get a high-profile free agent and one of the players they draft takes off. And there's not motivation to play, at the Barclays Center right now. I mean, Brooklyn's a pleasant place. It's a beautiful arena, but there's no spark there. I mean, you compare the difference between the Barclays Center, Madison Square Garden. It's like night and day going to a game. One crowd is quiet and polite. The other one's emotional, really into the game. And the Garden crowd was that way when they had the Babnick team.
Yeah. That's a very loyal crowd. There's no doubt about it. So let's get back to football here. A little Giants news for you. They're going to go heavy into making moves to sign free agent guards. They do have $40 million in cap space. Let's see. They did have an exploratory meeting with Russell Wilson, which we already brought out. He's not going to go with the Giants. He's going to sign with Pittsburgh. There's no doubt about it in my mind. They're closer to a championship team than the Giants are right now. So the Giants are going to get a rookie quarterback. They still got to pay Daniel Jones, whether he plays or not. My guess is with that hurt neck and with his leg, I don't know if he'll play next year either. He may not end up playing. He may be on the bench. So that's some wasted money they got there. The Commanders, they'll be happy to take Jaden Daniels. I've changed my mind on this, guys. I thought Caleb Williams who did turn down a workout with the Bears. He didn't show up. That's great. I love this guy. This guy is an idiot. He just said, I'm not showing up. So he told the Bears basically, I don't want to play for you. But anyway, Jaden Daniels, that makes more sense to me now with the Commanders. You don't have to give up a lot of draft picks, right? Jaden falls into your lap. He's probably better, in my opinion, than the bust Caleb Williams. And, you save all your draft picks. You got him on a rookie contract. I mean, to me, he's just as good, if not better, than Caleb Williams. And on top of that, they're not making the same mistake they made way back when they drafted before they moved up to draft a quarterback. I think let me get him here real quick. Who's the guy that they went after, Jack? They jumped up to grab. He ended up getting injured. Who?
You're not talking about Justin Fields, who they gave.
No. The guy that got injured.
RG3?
No.
That's what.
Later than
What
that.
team are we talking about, Matt?
Dwayne Haskins. They moved up.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Dwayne Haskins.
No, they didn't. No, they didn't move up to get Dwayne Haskins. The Giants took Daniel Jones at number 6 ahead of Dwayne Haskins.
They did. They moved up past the Giants to get Dwayne Haskins. They thought the Giants.
No, Daniel Jones was drafted ahead of Dwayne Haskins.
Jack, I'm telling you, they moved ahead up over the Giants to grab Dwayne Haskins. Wait a minute. You might be right.
And again,
Dwayne was with Pittsburgh. Dwayne Haskins was with Pittsburgh Steelers.
When he got hurt.
Haskins was
He was traded.
by the Commanders. They traded him to Pittsburgh late on.
Right.
And then Pittsburgh didn't give
But
up
the
much.
Giants did move up. The Giants, and that was a debacle in regards to moving up for Daniel Jones.
Right.
For six overall, yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
pick 6.
Now it's on number 6. Yeah.
And we ended up, and I think we got the better of the deal. While at least when Jones played, he played Dwayne Haskins.
Jones was better than Haskins.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah, by about that much. That much better.
I don't know. But anyway,
Who
so
knows how Haskins would have turned out with the Steelers? It's a tragedy.
Yeah.
So sad.
We don't know for sure.
Well, Mac, I have a question for you. Mac. If Chicago does not select Caleb Williams, what do they do?
I guess they keep Justin Fields, right?
That's what I was thinking as well. Yeah.
So they're stuck. I see, and I was going to ask your opinion on this. I feel that if they go to the draft and they aren't able to have traded Justin Fields, that they keep the first pick of the draft and they take Marvin Harrison Jr.
Wow. I'm not mad at that at all.
No, I think that would be a heck of a pickup, right?
Yeah.
Or if they're turned off by Caleb Williams, the Commanders want him bad enough that they will flip-flop number 1 and number 2, and the Bears will have a 2nd overall pick plus additional.
Caleb Williams is doing everything he can to get on the Raiders. That's what he's doing. He is posturing right now to try to get on the Raiders. It's the reason why he didn't want to play, the reason why he doesn't want to do anything with his medicals and stuff like that. He's trying to get on the Raiders.
Well, he's from you don't think he wants to be 2nd pick overall?
So, Pat,
No.
let me ask you this, Pags. If you're the Raiders and you see what he's doing, do you really want him? If he's not showing up for workouts, he looks like a prima donna. He's undersized. He's got little hands. I mean, it's the whole 9 yards. As a Raider, do you want him?
Yeah, because you ain't got a quarterback either.
Yeah, but
You're the 9th pick in the draft. That's the problem. He ain't falling to number 9.
Yeah, but
he's not going to fall.
Other quarterbacks.
Oh no, the Giants would take him for sure if he fell to 6.
Other quarterbacks will take him.
He's not falling outside of the top 3.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably not falling outside of the first pick. Chances are the Bears are going to trade, with another team who picks high in the draft so they can still get another quarterback if they want to maybe stick with Justin Fields ultimately. But Caleb Williams is going to be drafted very, very highly.
Let me ask you all this. This to me is very similar, right? Bryce Young gets picked number 1. C.J. Stroud gets picked number 2. Bryce Young pretty much is a bust so far. CJ Stroud is playing really well. So now you got Jaden Williams and Caleb Williams and Jaden out there, similar 2 and 3. Caleb Williams a bust and Jaden the one that plays well. What do you think? Similar, right?
I think Drake May is better than Jaden Danielson, and you're not mentioning his name.
You just don't like Jaden Daniels for some reason, Jack. I don't know what he did.
I mean, but the point is where the teams are going to draft. It doesn't matter what I think. Okay?
How many games have you watched?
I was about to say.
How many games?
How
many games did you watch Jaden play?
I'm an LSU fan. I watched them all.
Thank you.
And Jaden Daniels, let's say he came from Arizona State, he was okay. First year in LSU, he was really good. The kid put in a lot of work, and he worked with his receivers, and he just lit it up. I mean, even his read defense has drastically improved. His coach said this kid would stay in the locker room, would stay in the film room, 6 in the morning, 5 in the morning, come there and get in the film room every day. He was like just a film nut, and it showed on the field. I think the only thing going knock against him is his size. I mean, maybe like 203, 210 at 6'4". That's pretty slight. So to be drafted that high, no matter what team he's going to go to, he's going to have to take a lot of hits. And the question will be, what can he take a beating? But as far as throwing the ball, as far as reading defenses, he's already there. He's premium. There's a reason he's in the top 3.
Listen, Joe Montana, stick man, they used to call him. Goff is pretty skinny for his size. I mean, that doesn't mean that he won't play well. I listen. I think he might be one of the top quarterbacks coming out of college. I think he's that good. I think he's got a great mind, and that's half the battle when you're playing quarterback. So, anyway, let's see. Dallas is going to take less money to stay in Dallas instead of being traded. So Tony, he wants to remain a Cowboy. You saw what happened last year. At the end of the year, he kind of turned it on a little bit, but hurt. He's not a big guy. Dallas needs to get a big guy. Any thoughts on who they might be going after? Derrick Henry has been mentioned. The running back from the Raiders has been mentioned. What do you guys think?
I've heard they actually are interested in Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is, has had up and down with his injury or what have you, but sometimes it's the organization you're with. We know the running back shelf life is not extensively long. So if Derrick is going to get picked up by another team, Dallas looks like it'd be a solid fit. He needs to be picked up now as opposed to later. And I think, with everything else that Dallas has going on, that may be the weapon that they're actually missing, because maybe that can be what gets them over that 12-5 hump that they all are on eggshells out there for right now, from coaching all the way down to Dak as well.
But you know what the danger in that is? He's getting a great player at the tail end of his prime. You have to think, what's Derrick Henry going to give you moving forward? He's not likely to be the Derrick Henry that we know. And that's what you got to consider. So it's not like based on achievement, what he's done. Obviously, he's the greatest of all free agents available if you look at him career-wise. But what does he really have left now?
I mean, they give him a short contract.
Yeah, 2-year contract, maybe $10 million a year or $8 million a year, whatever the market. Yeah, wherever the market goes. I heard Saquon was probably going to Houston. That's the number one place. Philadelphia has been mentioned as one of the places for Saquon Barkley to go. And of course, Tiki Barber is on the air having a fit about
He's still a little whiny baby. Tiki Barber sucks. He's always sucked.
He had some good years, Bags. Come on. I mean, he won a double threat out of the backfield. I don't like his attitude either. I think
he's a big puss.
Yes. Okay. Well,
I don't know about that. As a player, he was a good player. He's a really good player.
Yes.
He was a really
He's a
good player.
great player, not a good player, a great player, one of the best Giant players of all time. If you just consider what he did on
Yeah,
the
I don't
field.
think so. He was whiny back then too. There's a reason why there's only one brother in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that's not. Yeah,
Ooh.
I would agree with that. Speaking of that, Pags, the question was posted. Do you think that Jason Kelsey, would come out of retirement to join his brother Travis in Kansas City to maybe have a shot at a Super Bowl?
Never.
Why?
I'm just telling you.
I mean,
Never. He's not doing it.
I could see that happen. I think he actually go maybe win a Super Bowl.
I'm glad that you could see it.
He won a
You want to bet
Super
money on it?
Bowl with
I'll bet you
Diego.
whatever you want to bet.
You always want to bet
Let me
money.
put it another way to Pat. Let me rephrase the question. Jason Kelsey's already won a Super Bowl, but let's say he wasn't on a Super Bowl winning team. End of his career, this is his chance. Would he possibly consider joining his brother to repeat if he never had a Super Bowl ring? But since he has one, I agree with you. He's not joining Travis.
I think the same. I don't think he's going to join them. It would have been a situation where had he not won a Super Bowl, and I mean, most Eagles players, man, I can see a lot of pride in those guys. And this guy, he's a standout all-star player. He's probably going to walk into the Hall of Fame maybe in 5-10 years. It's just, yeah, I don't see him. I mean, who's he going to replace is the question. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's a good relationship between Mahomes and his center that he has now. Is there center leaving?
Who's also a Pro Bowl center. Who's also a Pro Bowl center.
He wouldn't even start. So, yeah.
All right, so that went well. No, I didn't hear what anybody said on that, but that's okay.
Me neither.
because I bet they were all valid points anyway. I was talking about, Pags, before you came on, the unionization of college sports. Dartmouth up here, Northeast college basketball team wants to unionize, and I can see this playing out. They tried it in Oregon. I think it was about 4, 5, 6 years ago. They got shut down. A small school under the radar, maybe a trial balloon for the rest of the college kids out there to see what to expect, what the public would think of this, how the school reacts, does the mayor get involved? I mean, all the things that could possibly happen with this happening. I could see that this under the radar kind of thing is what the union wanted to try and the players there wanted to try.
I personally believe if they were able to make that happen, the NCAA would probably get behind it right now because they've got no power at all. And the NCAA could act like the governing body of the union. And that would be a whole different world now. That would change the whole dynamic of the NIL if you had the NCAA in charge of the unionization of college sports.
I mean, that would be a move if they could do that. Would the union let the NCAA take over something where, it's their baby? Would they let the NCAA take that over?
I think it only happens with a combination with the union and the NCAA mixing together and becoming almost like one entity against the NIL. It's the only way it's quite possibly the only way the NCAA could, and this is the first time even hearing of it, but it's the only way the NCAA could actually get any of the power back that they have lost, because they are now just like frauds. They're an entity that has no power whatsoever.
So now this, as was mentioned by almost everyone, this would mean that players would be staying in college a lot longer, right? You're going to get paid, you're going to get your benefits, you're going to get your insurance. So you're going to see players that may have their whole career in college. You may see 28-year-old guys playing against 18-year-old guys that aren't going to make the NFL, that aren't going to make the NBA. So you're going to maybe see career college basketball, college football players back.
They'd still have to be able to go to college, though. Like, you're not going to see 28-year-old college players, because what college is going to keep them for that long?
Well, if they're good enough to help the team win, they'll keep them. I mean, you got players right now that are 8 years that are in college football right now.
That are in their master's programs, right?
Yeah. So I mean, they're doing it now. Imagine a union where you're actually going to get paid. The problem I think here, Pags, and we all agreed on this too, is eventually the boosters start giving the money because they're out of money. Eventually, the NIL, all these people together, they run out of money, and the system's got to collapse. It's going to collapse.
What's going to wind up happening is that they are, with the unionization of things like that, you're going to wind up losing scholarships. Scholarships are going to be what suffers here. That means these kids are going to have to pay for the college, which means that the NIL is going to wind up having to pay for the college, which is really how it should be right now in the first place. If you get an NIL deal, you shouldn't get a scholarship. You should give the scholarship to somebody who's more needy to that.
I agree with that.
So
I agree with that. That's unless, Pags, you play cornhole. If you play cornhole now, you can get a 50% off your scholarship. They just did that at Winthrop College. Two beanbag champion throwers have just got 50% of their scholarship paid by being good beanbag throwers. What do you think of that?
And listen, it's becoming a professional sport. They show it on ESPN more often than I would like them to.
I remember you had something to do with a championship.
I do. I am a part of the Philadelphia, the Philadelphia professional team down here.
See, there you go. He's actually the
bell ringers. We are the bell ringers.
You might get a scholarship. I'm thinking me and Jack are going to start practicing too. And maybe we get a scholarship. I want to go to Notre Dame, Jack. I know you probably want to go to Harvard or something like that.
I want to see Jack as a freshman in college. That's comedy right there.
I've been working out. I wouldn't mind trying out for a team. You don't have things the old-fashioned way, the way sports used to be. An athlete would try out for a team. Now all the teams are set. I know you have the occasional walk-on, but that's a major exception to the rule.
Very true. And look at this. If you get a chance, look at the size of Jack's hands. I mean, he could probably hold that beanbag. Look at it. I mean, he has perfect beanbag throwing hands also. So I think he would be a great team addition. Anyway, folks, we're coming to the end of the show. I want to thank you all for all the views, the likes, the loves. Thanks for the shares. Thank you to, of course, Keith Angle, my co-host forever, Jack. Sonja, great job. James, good job again. We'll keep you coming back until we don't need you anymore. And don't forget, your fine is in the mail. Pags, again, thanks for showing up and coming on and blessing us with your makeup tips because we all need those. So anyway, have a great day. We'll see you Monday. Tomorrow, me and Jack will start off Roku channel on morning at 8 a.m. Join us then. Other than that, have a great Sunday, and I hope you guys got enough sleep with daylight savings time.